Hey, living La Vida laser turkey, guys. Balanced Druids. What do I have to say about them? There's a couple okay changes. Then there's some that are really bad. What do I think of the spec? It's not going to be one that I jump automatically to want to play. But there's for good reason. I enjoy a different style. A lot of people may still enjoy this thing, enjoy the way that it plays. But currently, the only way I'm going to be able to show you exactly how this is working is to go into the abilities. So let's start there. Alright guys, so we're jumping straight into the abilities. And the first thing you're seeing up here is Bark Skin. A little bit different. It's a 1 minute cooldown, reduces all damage you take by 20%, and preventing all damage from delaying your spellcasts, lasts 12 seconds. You can use this while stunned, frozen, incapacitated, basically any form of CC you can use it. The only problem is it doesn't feel like it's working correctly. The reduction doesn't seem to be there. I noticed really bad right off the beginning that this spec was getting pummeled out in the real world. Ouch. Really badly too. And I'm so used to boom chickens. Whenever you're out there, you're questing, the main thing you want to do is dot. You wanted to dot everything and then just burn it down and do. That was really hard to do with this, because if I pulled more than 2 mobs, I felt like I was going to insta-croak, and that's not where this spec should be as a multi-dot spec, unfortunately, at least in my opinion. In dungeons, it did a little bit better. But from that, let's go ahead and keep moving. Bear form, exactly what it says. Increases armor by 200% and stamina by 30. Blessing of the Ancients. This is a talent. We'll go over that later. Cat form, exactly what it says. Cat form. Bear form. Woohoo! Celestial alignment's your main cooldown, guys. Celestial bodies align, increasing the damage of all your spells by 30% and increasing the astral power generated by Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath by 50%. Last 15 seconds. Now, for anybody that's kept up with this at all, instead of actually you have your mana bar still, it's going to be down below. But up here is actually your astral bar, and as you end up casting abilities, there's some Solar Wrath. It's going to add a little bit in there. Just something to go over, basically. And then you've got Dash. Now this is on a 3-minute cooldown, guys, and we'll go over how to play this also a little bit later. 3-minute cooldown for Dash now, and it's going to increase your movement speed by 70% while in cat form for 15 seconds. Displacer Beast, talent, Dreamwalk. This is your teleport, basically, to get back to the Emerald Dream, your class hall. You are one of the only classes that still has a teleport. I believe Boomkins and Mages are the only ones that still teleport in some way. Entangling Roots. Yeah, still going to be able to root, guys. And there it is. That's all there is to it. Growl. They give you a taunt for if you need to swap into bear form for some reason. Most of the time I don't see you wanting to use it, but you may have some situation to where you can play Hero of the Day if you end up going that affinity in the talents, and we'll go over that in a few minutes. Healing Touch, very light heal. Very light, 37,000 out of 560k. The way mana plays right now, it's not very costly, but you'll see to where you'll actually lose quite a bit of mana if you end up going the healing affinity real quick, because of how much everything ends up costing, and it's very hard to keep yourself going with it. Innervate has made a return, but it is completely different. It's instant, 3-minute cooldown. Infuse a friendly healer with energy, allowing them to cast spells without spending mana for 10 seconds. Basically, this is a 10-second cost-free on mana if you use it on somebody. Awesome utility for the Boomkin. Do I see this going very far on a 10-second deal? Not unless you've got it premeditated that somebody is going to have to spend a shit ton of mana, like a monk using Vivify, 2-3 times in a row. This is going to be an awesome piece for that. Lunar Strike, it's still here, still part of your core rotation. It does do a little bit of a difference. It's going to do some decent arcane damage. Still a long cast time on it, guys. 14 astral power generation whenever you cast it. But then it also does a little bit of a splash damage along with it. Whenever you cast this, it's going to do about a sixth of what the... well, here, take a look. You can see it splashes. It's not too terribly bad on the extra damage. But anytime that you have, I would say, 3 or more targets, this is going to be your main generating ability just because of that splash, and it does do a little bit more damage than Solar Wrath. Single target, 1 to 2 targets, Solar Wrath may take over. Mighty Bash is a talent. Moonfire still here, guys. It's still going to be one of your main dots, okay? It's going to do some damage up front, some arcane damage up front, and then put an arcane dot on him for 22 seconds. And you can also use this while in bear form. Boomkin form, there's not a lot of difference here, guys. Shapeshift into a Boomkin form, increasing your arcane and nature damage by 10% and your armor by 200%, and granting protection from polymorph effects. While in this form, single target attacks against you have 15% chance to make your next damaging spell instant. Really, there's not a whole hell of a lot that's changed with the Boomkin form. You're doing basically the same thing. You would just want to make sure you're in it whenever you're doing damage. Your artifact ability. Now this is a cool little twist. I enjoy this one, guys, because it helps out quite a bit. So what's it do? Okay, it's got a 15-second recharge. So basically, this has 3 charges, and every 45 seconds, you'll get the main benefit out of it. So it starts off with New Moon, and as you can see, it's not a bad amount of damage. And then it gives you 10 astral power and becomes Half Moon. So let's go ahead and cast this. Watch the effect. Okay. Pretty basic, doesn't look that good. Now you've got, it's still saying New Moon. This is actually Half Moon, guys, okay? So what's Half Moon going to end up doing? Half Moon, it's still got it sitting there. Let me see if it'll update. No, it's still, okay, so I'm going to read the tooltip off to the side here, guys. And what Half Moon's going to do is it's going to deal basically double the amount of damage that it just did as astral damage to the target, and powers Half Moon to become Full Moon. So we'll cast Half Moon, and that also generates 20 astral power. Now Full Moon, this deals 139,000. This is going to double Half Moon's damage now into astral damage to the target and all enemies near the target. So this becomes a giant AoE, and it resets Full Moon back to New Moon. So you're starting the cycle over again. This generates 40 astral power. And just watch, you're going to drop a big moon right on top of them. Absolutely awesome. Really cool looking ability. And the generation and the gameplay that you can do from this, as you can see, it does generate some good astral power. We do have it towards waning down. But this thing plays very nicely into the gameplay, and I will go over a bit more there. But the effects and the spells look really damn cool. And again, I mean, here's New Moon. This is Half Moon. A little bit bigger, and then you've got Full Moon, which literally drops a moon on everything and does insane damage. Alright, so there's that. That's your artifact ability. You still have Prowl, which is going to put you in cat form and stealth. Rebirth still there. Works exactly the same as on live. 60% health and 20% mana for anybody that dies during combat, basically. Resurrects them. Regrowth. Way too much mana cost for way too little healing benefit. Again, this is going to be off of the healing affinity. You normally wouldn't have this one. You normally wouldn't have this one unless you went with the healing affinity. So we'll move on to corruption. So this is just going to be a decurse, guys. That's all it is. Basic, very simple. Revive does exactly what it says. This is your resurrect. Solar beam. It still works the same. You're going to throw it out there and it's going to act as an AoE stun. Or not stun, I'm sorry. Interrupt. It interrupts the targets over 8 seconds in a location, as long as they're still in the location. 1 minute cooldown though, so hopefully nobody plans on you being a main interrupter. Solar Wrath. Hurl a ball of solar energy, and that's it, guys. Same as on live. Slightly different visual on it. I mean, it looks alright. Starfall has had a huge change though. This thing has been gutted, unfortunately. Now, what you're looking at is calls down waves of falling stars at the target location. The ability looks cool as shit. It also applies stellar empowerment to each target, which increases the damage taken from your moonfire and sunfire by X amount. So the gameplay on this basically goes around dot everything, alright? Then you're going to want to generate, this does say 50 astral power, but that's because I have a talent that's actually got it reduced. Okay, so we're going to build up just a little bit here. And as you can see, you can also see on my dots, they're kind of maintaining where they're at. It's because if you have all your dots up, let me throw these back up so you can see. But whenever you end up dotting these, I've got a talent that actually works a little bit different than what it does on live. Usually it'll only do the target that you're on, but now it'll end up doing all targets, and I'll go over that in the talents here in a bit too. So we got enough, and here's Starfall. It looks sweet. I mean, it looks really good, and you can see to where it's doing decent amount of damage, but the whole point in this thing is not to be the AoE damage itself, but to increase the damage of what your multi-dotting is doing. That's the whole point of this. A 48% increase to your dots, so you want to dot everything and then throw out Starfall, and that's going to increase your damage. Okay, whatever. I like the old one to where it would, if you played it right, you know, you didn't pull the whole damn dungeon, or if you wanted to, you could pull the whole damn dungeon anyways. Star Surge, so this has had a little bit of a change also. It is an instant cast now, all the way through and through for Boomkins. But what's it doing? It does still hit like a truck. It is more than likely going to be your top damage in almost all situations. And also grants lunar and solar empowerments, which increases the damage of your next lunar strike and solar wrath by 63%. Respectively, you can accumulate up to 3 each, okay? I'll go over this more in the gameplay, guys, but basically, this is going to be, in your core rotation, actually build up your excess damage. Again, we'll go over that here in a bit. Sunfire, same as what it is on live, guys. You're going to end up shooting this bad boy out, and then anything that's within 5 yards is going to get the dot also, as you can see. Swiftman does exactly what it says. It's going to heal you for 73,000 instant, 30-second cooldown. Expensive as hell, so don't plan on getting a whole hell of a lot of healing done after casting this. 27,000, you only have 86,000 mana. Travel form, it's the same as what it is. It's going to basically, if you can fly, it's going to turn you into the giant flying bird, the raven, the owl, the bat, depending on your spec. Or if you can only run, it's going to turn you into the stag now, instead of the cheetah. Kind of nice. There's no glyph on this, so this is basically where you're at. Astral Influence increases the range of all your abilities by 5 yards, so instead of you having your normal 40-yard range, you actually have a 45-yard range, and this is baked right in to the spec. Mastery, Starlight. Mastery's had a huge change. Its passive increases Starfall and Star Surge damage and effect of lunar, solar, and stellar empowerments by an additional 28%. So this is an all-in-all damage increase. As you're using Star Surge, you're going to end up getting the solar and stellar empowerments on your abilities, which is going to increase the damage of those abilities by X amount. And then if you end up needing AoE, basically Starfall is going to increase the damage of your dots that are up there. Really interesting, but this is straight damage increase only. That there's nothing else there. There's no gameplay change setup. It's just straight up, we are improving your damage in single target and AoE situations with Mastery. Mastery might be pretty high on the priority list, but I still see them as crit turkeys, crit chickens. Crit feels really strong on this spec right now. Again, not numbers crunching, that's just my speculation because I did go kind of a crit mastery build and it felt pretty solid, and it seemed to look pretty solid. Ysera's Gift is passive on here, and this is actually from a talent, which we will go into right now. Alright, so here we are on the talents. Level 15, you've got Force of Nature still, 1 minute cooldown, summons the Treants. Basically what this is going to do is it's still going to summon Treants, guys, and they're going to taunt and attack the enemies. I'll go ahead and pull it out so you can take a look at what it does. You've got a targeting reticle, you pull it out, and hey, look, they're not even going to do anything because I'm not showing combat. And this is what they do. Alright, that's it. You basically got two that are considered like feral affinities, and then they're worthless. They don't really seem to do much of anything. Warrior of a Loon, it's instant. Your next 2 lunar strikes are instant cast. Now this is a cool ability, guys. So if you really need to, you can take this thing and you can click it, and instead of spending that almost 5 seconds worth of cast time, you'll be able to just click on this and do boom boom back-to-back lunar strikes. I see some good gameplay changes with this that you can end up getting and squeezing out, but I did go with Star-Lord as my core rotation ability, and that's because lunar and solar empowerments also reduce the cast time of their affected spells by 8%. Didn't really need, this is kind of why I went a little more crit mastery than I did haste, because I was using this for the affected haste. And once you get into an actual rotation, you're usually almost always empowered, so it really felt nice. It felt like I was always casting faster no matter what, the way I was building everything up. Really good play on this, guys. Really, really good. So, level 30, you've got Renewal. It's an instant heal. Heals you for 30% of your max health on a 2-minute cooldown. Not bad. Probably would have helped out a lot on questing because, like I said, you kind of get pummeled really bad out there. It really feels horrible. Displacer Beast, instant, 30-second cooldown. Works the same as on live. Basically, this is going to put you into cat form and just blink you forward. A little bit of a graphic glitch still, but they'll get it fixed. And then you've got Wild Charge. Wild Charge is the same as on live also. For the Boomkin, it's basically going to make you disperse. No, not that. Hunter ability, disengage. And that's all that's going to do. It's going to make you leap backward like a disengage and get you out of stuff. Displacer Beast works best for the movement. And then if you just want to take the hit and heal, this works too. Level 45, your affinity group, and these are a little interesting. Feral affinity, you gain 15% movement speed by 15%, and you also learn some of Feral's abilities to end up, just to end up helping you out a bit, and your energy regeneration is increased by 35%. It helps out. This is going to be like a damaging setup for you to, if you really didn't feel like being a Boomkin, you could be a cat in Boomkin spec. Why not just go spec feral? Anyways, so Guardian Affinity, passive, you gain Thick Hide. All damage taken by is reduced by 10%, and then you get some of the bear equivalents. This didn't really feel like it did much, guys. Really did not. And then again, I mean, I'd go into bear form, but that didn't do anything damage-wise that I was really looking for. This is going to have its niche setup in case, I guess, if you got a tank or something for a few seconds, because if it's a boss, you're not going to last long, even just in bear form. And then there's Restoration Affinity. This one seemed the most useful, and basically 3% of your max health every 5 seconds is you're going to get healed for, and then at full health, the random nearby injured ally will end up getting healed also, and it also gives you the use of Rejuve, Regrowth, and Swiftman. This felt the best out of all 3 of them, because like I said, cat form didn't really matter. Bear form, okay, that damage reduction was not working that great. I didn't have enough ways to keep myself alive, even with 10% reduced damage out in the real world. And then the healing helped out a bit more, but still, you didn't want to pull more than 2 targets, unfortunately. As you can tell, I wasn't too impressed with the way this thing played. Level 60, Mighty Bash, instant, 50-second cooldown, invoke the Spirit of Ursoc, stun the target. This stun's just awesome. It's nice to end up using it. 50-second cooldown on it though, so a little long wait. Mass entanglement works the same as on live. It's just going to root the whole entire. It's going to give you targeting reticle and then base reticle, and then you throw it down, and it's going to end up just mass rooting everything. That's it. Typhoon, knockback, same as on live. Level 75, Soul of the Forest, increases the damage bonus from lunar and solar empowerments by additional 15%, and reduces the astral power cost of Starfall by 10%. This just seemed best, and again, like I said, it felt like the rotation felt really strong on keeping you empowered anyways, once you get started. And we'll go over that a bit more, but that's why I'm using Soul of the Forest. Incarnation, this takes over your one cooldown ability and gives you another cooldown ability. Now the only difference is this is going to increase all of your damaging spells by 40% instead of 30%. That's what Celestial Alignment does. And then it lasts 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds. Wasn't really that awesome. It's not a separate ability anymore. It takes over the cooldown you've got, and it's on a 3-minute cooldown. It just increases the buff time by double. You know, instead of 15, it's 30 seconds. And then it's 40% instead of 30%. It wasn't that great. And it felt, whatever. It was a fire and forget talent, and it's just baked into the actual rotation. Yeah, you get a little bit more burst time, but man, it sucked. And then you've got Stellar Flare. This thing was fun to play with. But currently at the gear level, I'm going to say it just didn't fit right. And it's going to burn the target. It's another dot, basically. It does initial upfront damage, and then it's going to do some pretty heavy damage over the next 24 seconds. And it also benefits from Starfall's Stellar Empowerment, so it can get increased. It works pretty interestingly, guys, and it does play well. But it just didn't seem to fit at these item levels. You know, again, this one is only 102. I had some time on this in alpha. But whenever the white came, it got rid of everything. Also, it just wasn't the funnest spec for me to end up enjoying. So I didn't put a lot of time into this one, but I did get a lot of information on it. But this is a fun ability. It's an extra dot. If you want to end up doing an additional dot tracking, you've got 2 already. If you want to throw a 3rd in there, there you go. You are now an Affliction Warlock. Level 90, Shooting Stars, passive Moonfire and Sunfire damage over time has a 10% chance to call down Falling Star. This is weak. I mean, it just, every now and then you'll just see a little dot, blue dot come down and hit him, and it does very, very little damage. And it also generates some Astral Power. It's alright. That's all I can give it, is alright. Astral Communion generates 75 Astral Power. This is if you need to boost it back up. It's on a 1.33 minute cooldown, so it's probably reduced by haste also. And then Blessings of the Ancient. I enjoyed this. This gave some thought to the spec. And it's instant. It says 15-second cooldown. And what it is you get 2 different buffs. Gain a Blessing of the Ancients, activating or swapping between one of the 2 following beneficial effects. Blessing of Elune increases astral power generated by Solar Wrath or Lunar Strike by 40%. So if you can stand there and actually cast for a long period of time, this is going to be the way to go if you're just standing there nuking. Blessing of Anshe, I don't know, grants 2 astral power every 2.2 seconds. So if you have to be in high movement, that's going to be the way to go. And it's real easy. It's a button click to end up swapping, but it gives it some thought process. Okay, I'm going to have to end up running my ass off in the next 4 seconds. Let's go ahead and swap this thing over, and then you've got your mobility builder basically. So you've got that one, and then this single target, and it's a cool little effect that they put on you. Really interesting. And you'll see I don't swap it a whole hell of a lot because there's not really a whole lot of movement that I'm gonna have to end up doing in the gameplay that I show, but you will definitely end up seeing me swap it every now and then. And then level 100, Fury of Elune. This thing, when you start getting a bit more generation and a bit better gear, it's probably going to take off. I know it's insane AoE, but it's going to call down a beam of pure celestial energy at the target location, dealing 34,764 astral power. damage until for every 1 second. Basically, this thing's an ion cannon, and we'll take it real quick. It is on a 1 minute cooldown, but that's perfectly fine. Okay, I've got it there. Let's go ahead and build up. We'll generate. This thing's beautiful, guys. It's absolutely beautiful. You can re-click this and make it to where it moves again also. But I'm going to go ahead and build it up to full because it does take a little bit. Let me back up. We're going to back up. Really fun ability, and I don't know. There we go. We're full. We'll start it over there, and as you can see, just nukes the hell out of things, and you can move it back and forth. Just re-click it and retarget it, and it'll go back and forth, and you can keep this up quite some time, especially if you've got like a bloodlust phase, heroism, whatever side you're on. And this is going to you just keep casting your generators and it'll keep filling it back up, but this will nuke forever, and it does some huge damage. It's on a 1 minute cooldown, but it is fun as shit to play with. Then you have Stellar Drift. It increases Starfall's radius by 30%, Starfall damage by 20%, and allows you to cast while moving while within Starfall's radius. So this gives you a movement ability over 8 seconds after you end up casting Starfall. Again, it's going to be very niche on what you use this for. It's going to have a very specific encounter in mind for this, and it's not any of the 5-mans I've been running. Really not interested at all. Nature's Balance, though, this one played out pretty nice, and like I said, this gives you a bit of additional damage. And what I would do with this ability, especially on like an AoE situation, it helped out a ton. So you do have your cleave off a Lunar Strike, and what I would do with this is I would actually end up taking Nature's Balance, and it's going to make it to where Lunar Strike extends the duration of your Moonfire by 5.2 seconds, and Solar Wrath to extend the duration of your Sunfire by 3.5 seconds. So rotation wise, the way this one ended up working out, you can throw out your different dots. Alright, yes, I am clicking this completely right now because I don't have my keyboard handy, and then I just spam Lunar Strike because you're getting all that extra crit or cleaving off of Lunar Strike and then the dots, and it keeps Moonfire up on everything. And then whenever Sunfire would get low, reapply Sunfire. Pretty simple, guys. It worked out really nice in both single target and boss fights, just keeping it up. It was one less GCD that one less cooldown that I had to worry about, and it felt pretty good, and it kept the dots rolling. It also helps every time that when these do damage, it gives you a little bit of lunar power, and it just fit nicely having Nature's Balance. But again, that's going to be play style. And with this, guys, this is going to be the end of the talents. Let's go ahead and move on to the artifact itself. Alright, so here's the skins. It's not a bad looking scythe, guys. It really looks kind of cool. But the first model, your basic model, is the Scythe of Elune. And we'll let it spin around so you can get a better look. And it's a decent model. It's nothing awesome. And then you've got Envoy of Goldrin. A little bit better. Getting good. Getting good. Lunar Call, we'll let it spin around before we click on this bad boy. But it's a decent looking model. Does it fit the Boomkin? Well, I guess. I mean, it's not bad. Lunar Call really fits, so it's a good looking piece. Enjoy it. And then you've got your PvP one, which is just absolutely sick. This looks like a busted up wing or something. Looks good. We'll let it spin just one more time. Now, as you can see, they don't have the fifth one set in here yet. They're still working on it or something, but the hidden model. But your PvP ones look good. Lunar Call looks really good. Envoy, all of these aren't bad. It's by far not the bottom. That's for damn sure. They look good. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to the traits. Alright, so, again, New Moon is going to be your artifact ability. We went over that in the actual ability, so I'm going to skip over it right now. Skywrath. First thing you get whenever you get this artifact, increases damage done by Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath by 6%. Base damage increase. That's all you're really getting. Then you got Scythe of the Stars, increases the critical strike chance of Star Surge by 12%. It's actually 6, 12, and then 18, guys. But I do have a relic in here, and then I've got it upgraded, but it would normally be 6, 12, and 18. Sunblind increases the radius of Sunfire by 5 yards. Cool. So instead of 5 yards, it's now 10. That helps out a ton for some semi-spread out situation, because currently it doesn't feel like it gets enough distance. Bladed Feathers, Boomkin form increases your armor by an additional 25%, so 25, 50, 75. That is going to be nice because, like I said, it feels like you get wrecked right now. Echoing Stars, 0-1. Each time Starfall deals damage, it also damages another nearby enemy for very little astral damage. Basically what this is going to end up doing is just adding AoE on your AoE. With Starfall damage isn't what you're really looking at anyways, it's the dot damage from Starfall. Maybe this will end up helping, I don't know. Solar Stabbing, 0 of 3, increases damage dealt by Solar Wrath by 5, 10, and 15%. Rapid Innervation, Innervate also grants the target 20% haste for its duration. Oh god. Can anybody see the problem with this ability yet? Arcane mages are going to be, give it to me, it'll save me mana, and it'll also make me cast faster. This is going to be the Dark Intent days, back when Dark Intent was a buff, you know, and then you've got the, oh god, there's so many of them that just made you a call-out bitch, and everybody was whispering you. This is going to lead to that problem again, and it kind of pisses me off that I see this yet again. So anyone that plays a Boomkin, beware. If you've got this, you're gonna have people asking for your Innervate every single day, minute, hour of raiding. Twilight Glow increases damage dealt by Moonfire by it'll be 5, 10, or 15%. Again, I do have this upgraded with a relic, that's why you're seeing 4 slots, so it's normally only 3. Sunfire Burns, obviously. Rank 0 of 3. Increases damage dealt by Sunfire by 3, 6, or 9%, possibly 10. Moon and Stars, rank 0 of 1. During Celestial Alignment, which each harmful spell you cast grants 3% haste. That's cool. That's going to give you a little bit more of a buff. You may even, I don't know if this is going to work for Incantation, Armored Druid, basically, whatever it is. But if it does, this might line up and pair better. Empowerment, 0 of 3. Increase the damage bonus from lunar and solar empowerments by 3, 6, and 9%, possibly 10. Dark Side of the Moon, rank 0 of 3. Passive increases the critical strike chance of lunar strike by 5, 10, or 15%. That's always good. More crit, harder hit. Touch of the Moon, rank 0 of 3. Passive, when you take damage, you have a 5% chance to heal yourself for 37,000, whatever it ends up being. Cannot occur more than once every 20 seconds, so it's basically going to be 5, 10, or 15%. And then you got reduces the remaining cooldown on Solar Beam by 3 seconds for each target it interrupts. Okay, so Light of the Sun, one ability. If you do a ton of them, it's going to help out, but still 1 minute cooldown. Unless you get 10 targets that you're interrupting all at the same time, it's not going to be that great. Falling Star, rank 0 of 3. Increase the damage bonus from Stellar Empowerments by 15, 30, and 45%. This one is awesome. Yeah, Stellar Empowerments, again, Stellar Empowerments is your dot damage whenever you throw out Starfall. So this is going to be like your AoE direction, then you've got your single target. It's really scattered, guys. It's not the greatest layout of the traits either. But with that, this is the traits, guys. Unfortunately, this is what you have to look at. I really hate this thing, just because Innervate's going to be used as a damaging cooldown on most of your casters, or you're going to have to end up, if the healers are actually using it in a good time, this is going to be great. But I have the thought that somebody's going to want you to use it on them to increase their DPS, and that is fucking stupid. And that's where it might end up going. But with this, guys, let's go ahead and go right on to the gameplay. So the gameplay on the Boomkin is not quite that different than what you would normally end up seeing on live, at least in a single target situation. With the change of Starfall, basically think of it as Hurricane. That's the only way you can think of it. And we haven't used Hurricane for anything really in a long time. Starfall is a gutted wonder. It still does really well, but it's no longer a heavy damaging ability, unfortunately. They gave it a really cool effect. It plays out nice. But let's talk AoE. Okay, dot everything. That's your first spec. You want to dot everything, or at least get Sunfire on everything, which is real easy since all it is a one click. Everything within 5 yards is going to get it, unless you've got it improved. Really decent. Throw that up, and then make sure you're moonfiring everything, and hopefully by the time you've got everything moonfired, you're going to be able to throw out Starfall. When you get that Starfall out, and mind you, this is going to be in, I would say 4+ targets is where this is going to be best, maybe 3. But generally, Starfall is not going to do a whole hell of a lot of damage on its own. It's going to be through your dots. Your dots are going to shoot through the roof because of this ability. That is the basis of AoE. And then to end up building up Astral Power, guys, completely remove Solar Wrath from your rotation and just cast Lunar Strike because it does have cleave potential and it also generates a little bit more Astral Power that way. That's it. That's all you're going to do for AoE. Pretty bland, pretty boring. If it's spread out, you don't get that benefit anymore like you used to with Starfall, to where you can end up hitting Starfall and it's going to hit everything within X amount of range. No, now you got to have it in a goddamn reticle, and it sucks. With that being said, single target. Okay, single target, not a whole hell of a lot different than what you would normally see. Let's go straight into the boss fight idea. Normally, what I would do when I started a boss fight is I would cast both my dots. I'd also end up throwing New Moon and Half Moon because that's an instant 30 Astral Power, and I would leave that Full Moon prepared. Now, after that, I would end up building up Solar Wrath until I got to about 80 Lunar Power. At this point, I would end up hitting Celestial Alignment to give me the bonus, and it also increases the amount of generation. With that 40 Astral Power, though, I would be able to end up doing two Star Surges, my Full Moon, and then I would do a third Star Surge, and then go into blowing off the 3 empowerments that I just ended up getting right off the bat. At this point, if you're playing this correctly, you should always be empowered when you cast your next ability, whether it's Solar Wrath or Lunar Strike. You're just going to go back and forth between those two, making sure your dots are still up. And then you can make sure you're using New Moon and Half Moon accordingly, and your Full Moons. Basically, it's going to be watching your Lunar Bar or your Astral Power Bar at this moment. That's all it turns into. Watching that Astral Power Bar, making sure you're using Star Surges correctly. You're going to have 3 charges of empowerment right off the beginning if you follow that rotation, and then it's just going to always be empowered at that moment. Really decent gameplay, guys. Decent is the best I can give it, though, because it gets boring quick. You do have a couple areas to where certain items are going to benefit better than others. Like, if you've got any cleave situation whatsoever, you're going to want to use your empowered Lunar Strikes over your empowered Solar Wraths. But if it's empowered, you want to use it, just because it's getting that much extra damage. How was the damage on this thing? It was alright. I mean, it wasn't bad. If you got hit, though, you're getting crushed. Every single time. It felt like I was getting crushed if I took any damage whatsoever. But as for the actual gameplay on this, boss fights, it's doing well. AoE, it's doing well. You just have a ton to work with. It's just boring, guys. I mean, you throw out the dots in an AoE situation, you throw up Starfall, and then you just basically cast Lunar Strike until you build up enough or you have to reapply dots or do whatever. That is it. And then you end up having your single target rotation, and you're just hitting the flashy lights while keeping dots up. That's it. Using Star Surge whenever you get enough Astral Power, so on and so forth. Or if you're premeditating and pooling, you're going to pool up. And again, like I talked about with the boss fights, pool up to about 80. You know, hit your celestial alignment, pop off those 2 star surges, your full moon, and then you're going to be going from there. It's going to be a huge burst window while that celestial's up, as long as you time it correctly. And then you'll also have all the empowers, and you'll stay empowered through the rest of the fight if you end up doing it right. It's a very basic, simple rotation once you get the general down. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it at all. I mean, it's basically like playing an old school Affliction Warlock, to where you kept your 2 dots up and then you shadow bolted. That's what it felt like. That's all it felt like. That was it, and I did not enjoy it. It was boring, and I really hate to end up saying this, but this is probably one of the lowest ones on my list of if I were going to play it. This is going to be different depending on different people, though, guys. Very different, and I really don't usually end up giving a bad review on anything, but I did not enjoy this spec. There's been some really bad changes, with some decent ones. I mean, you don't have the teeter-totter that you got to follow anymore for your astral or power or anything, but that was kind of something cool to end up watching, that actually gave you a little bit of, okay, I've got this much time left to end up reapplying a dot, or so on and so forth. It gave it some benefit. As where this is just a build it up, fire it off, and call it good. There's nothing really special in the rotation except the occasional build up you're going to fire off Star Surge, or you're going to use Starfall. With that being said, guys, let's take a look at some of the logs. Alright guys, so here you have it. Damage wise, you can see there's a lot of really high peaking and plateauing. So you've got the cooldowns. This is going to be where the Star Surge initials at, and then you've also got right through here where full moon is always coming back up every 45 seconds. And again, you want to make sure you're using that one as often as possible without over or under capping yourself with the actual gameplay for the lunar building. Star Surge is by far going to be your top damage still. As you can see, it does hit like a very big truck, and it works out very nicely. Max crit on that was 229,000. 17 total casts, not too bad. Lunar Strike not far behind with 17 casts, 41% crits. So it did quite a bit of damage being critical. Again, I see crit and mastery being pretty heavy for it, because your crits do seem to be well worth it. No additional lunar energy, lunar generation through crit though, unfortunately. Solar Wrath right behind it, 20 casts, only 19 hits. I believe one of those was cast right as it was dying. Moonfire, as you can see, it does pretty decent. You've got your initial damage, and then your tick, and then Sunfire, and then Full Moon, Half Moon, and New Moon, all towards the bottom. Again, you only get 3 casts of each, but you can see where the damage potential is at between each one. New Moon, and then you've got your full or Half Moon here, and then your Full Moon. Really ends up looking pretty solid after a while. And then the critical hit on that is 272,000. Now this was the Wrath of Ashara. Let's just go ahead and swap it over. I want to go to Serpentix. Alright, heavier mobility fight, and you can see this beginning area, once where Celestial Alignment was used, it's quite a bit higher. I did end up melee swinging to finish off the boss because I was bored. But again, Star Surge, Solar Wrath, Lunar Strike, Sunfire, these are all going to be generally about the same whenever you look at them. Let's see, King Deepbeard, he's another good one. Alright, that's what you're looking at. And then you've also got Warlord Parjesh, mainly a standstill. And again, Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath are going to be pretty close. Solar Wrath, if you're just single targeting and you've got a decent amount of movement, this is going to be the better way to go. Lunar Strike, if you've got the time to cast it, because it still is a pretty long cast time, it'll end up doing a little bit better. But as you can see, peaking, everything, it's playing out very nicely, guys. The damage is there. It really is. But the spec just, to me, it is very boring. And some people, it may not feel that way because of their gameplay choices and styles. But to me, this is not a spec that I am going to main. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it got you the information you're looking at. It is a very stable spec. But again, it's not my first choice. And I hope that you enjoyed this. I really do hope you enjoyed it. I know I don't have as much emotion in it as I normally would because it really was a disappointment to me. But thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and smack that like button like it stole your girlfriend, and then, you know, subscribe, and we'll get you the best content available. Thanks for watching.